So here we are. It is officially the third presidential Democratic debate.
Right.
You saw the 10 strongest contenders. People were really focused on the 4 up top. When you look at this debate, though, fundamentally, do you think Democrats are getting the right message across on the, on the screen on the nights?
I think that for the Democratic primary voters who just really want to beat Trump, that's the only thing they care about, kind of, right? The first 20 minutes of the debate was spent arguing about healthcare, and healthcare is very important.
Right.
But we've kind of rehashed it. We've had that debate before. It's rehashing past things. And I think what a lot of Democratic voters just want to know is how capable are you going to be on the debate stage with Trump? How able are you going to be to beat Trump? And some of that was discussed. A lot of other stuff was discussed as well about policy, but I'm not sure that Democratic voters are all that invested in these policy conversations.
That's interesting. So do you think the Democratic primaries should be more focused on like who looks good on stage, who sounds good, who has a feeling of being presidential, because it's mostly Democratic voters who are going to decide what's going to happen?
So the crazy thing is Democratic voters really want to beat Trump, and they have firm ideas about what being electable means. But the fact that Trump is president means that literally anyone's electable. So it's hard to figure out exactly who on that stage would be best for that task.
Right.
Is it Biden, who polls very well, consistently high against Trump, very conventional former vice president? Is it Bernie Sanders, who also polls very well against Trump, has much more left-wing views than Biden, but again, does well in the head-to-head polls, and a lot of Biden voters really like Bernie, and a lot of Bernie voters really like Biden. Or is it Warren, or is it Harris? And I think part of the trouble for Democratic voters is that there's no clear-cut way to actually determine who is going to be the best up against Trump, who is the most electable. And so part of what we saw at the debate was them trying to figure out ways to position themselves for this particular task, while also trying to criticize on the issues where each of them sort of have their niche.
You know what's interesting as well is people want to pitch themselves as a president, and at the same time they want to pitch why they would be a better president than Obama without at the same time slamming Obama for anything that he did. There seems to be like this weird balancing game between each man. I loved Obama, but this is what now Obama was great, but this is what I would do. How much more progressive do you think this field is than Obama was? Like when you look at them holistically, and do you think they have to find that balance, or should they just be like, no, I'm doing it differently?
I mean, I think overall the field's quite a bit more progressive than Obama. I think things have moved to the left. Even the centrist candidates are embracing policies that Obama wasn't quite ready to go for. I think this is really acute on immigration. You saw this during the debate when Vice President Biden said, we didn't jail people, and Julian Castro was like, wait a sec.
You did.
I recall a very different immigration policy, and I think immigration specifically is going to be this issue where there is an attempt to create distance with Obama because a lot of Democratic voters want a more liberal and humane immigration policy, but there's also this thing of wanting to show that, no, I'm with the Obama presidency. I recognize Obama was a great president. I support him. And that's a thing that I think they're trying to figure out how to do.
It seems like on healthcare, that they have their arguments, but people agree on the universal aspect of it. The main issue is private insurance, no private insurance, but otherwise people agree. People seem to agree on guns, background checks, etc. Immigration seems to be the place where people are getting tripped up.
Yeah.
Is there a win for Democrats in the space of, do you deport people, or do you say that all immigrants who come into the country undocumented can stay? I don't hear anybody with like a clean answer whenever they're asked that question. Is there a clean answer?
I think there's a clean answer. I think that some candidates, I think Castro's one of them, has made the case that you need to decriminalize certain parts of border entry to make it so that you're not throwing people into jail for what are basically civil crimes. I think what Democrats should embrace is the fact that public opinion is what political scientists call thermostatic. It moves in the opposite direction of the person in office. And so Trump is very anti-immigrant, and the public, since 2017, has become increasingly more pro-immigrant, more pro-immigration, more more humane immigration policies. And so, I mean, these are all politicians, so they should try to be politicians and be a little vague, but also embrace the fact that Americans have swung in the opposite direction and really do want to change in terms of the kind of immigration policy the government's doing.
That's an interesting one. You say be a little bit more vague, because there was one point where they were asking Elizabeth Warren, will the taxes go up? Specifically, will taxes on the middle class go up? And then they specifically asked Biden, would you increase the number on immigration? And specifically, Bernie, what would you do with the numbers? I found myself asking myself one question, and that was, does Trump have an advantage because he will just blatantly lie on a debate stage? They go like, who'll pay for a wall? Mexico. What are you going to do with ISIS? I've got a secret plan.
Right.
Does that give him an advantage in a debate?
I think it does. I mean, one of the strangest things to me about all of this is that Trump has no policy ideas. Like you said, he kind of just says what's on his mind.
Right.
He will give you whatever answer he needs to get to the next question or get out of the interaction. And the press treats him like that. Whereas everyone knows that Democrats actually care about stuff.
Right.
So the press,
and they have policies.
And they have policies, so the press treats them like they care. And so that creates an automatic asymmetry, because when you care, you do actually want to get the details right. You want to make sure you're not doing something terrible. If you don't care either way, if it does not matter to you what happens, if you are just trying to pander to the greatest number of people, like President Trump often is, then yeah, you can just say whatever. And it's hard to deal with that in the context of a 30-second response in a debate.
Oh, well, tonight was an interesting night. We'll see how the numbers start rolling out. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Jamelle Bouie, everybody.